Hello, Feldman Royle team. This is Christoph with Kaiserworks. I'm going to walk us through our current deliverables. We're looking here at our cover page. This is an updated colored elevation looking at our monolithic marble piece that is basically cladding the wall that is currently clad with a dark wood as you walk into the unit on your your left hand side. Beyond that, we're showing a tectum wall treatment that we're using as the backdrop to this reception scene. This reception desk is at this point sort of a sketch, but we're thinking that we would like to reincorporate the same walnut shiplap that we have on the wall that is directly behind us as you're looking at the reception desk, and use that as a millwork treatment so the two talk to each other in that regard. We're meeting the ADA requirement height for desks. Being candid here, I kind of wish this was a little bit taller, but we need to meet a certain height for ADA accessibility of these desks. We're showing a reading light, sort of a modern version of a reading light that emerges from the desk to keep visibility to our brand wall clear. Illumination on this wall, we're doing two different things here. We have a trough light that is going to wash that tectum from a recessed trough. You won't see the light source, you'll just see light sort of pouring out above at the edge of the room. That does a lot to make the room feel more expansive. This is sort of the trick they do in airplanes where you introduce light at the edges of the space or the horizon of the space, and it makes it feel like the room is larger than it is. This is a concealed door that takes us to our back of house that's of the same materiality as the tectum. And then what you cannot see here, located directly behind the reception desk, you'll see this in the plan and one of our elevations, is a wall of file cabinets that again is recessed into the neighboring office space. It becomes a credenza that a desk can lap onto on the adjacent space and becomes usable file storage for the receptionist up front. Here we have our conference area with an integrated television that is sitting flush within a niche in the wall. And here you can see a bench of sorts that is comprised of the same floor tile material. So the floor tile, we're using these large, dramatic 30 by 60 inch tiles, very large format tiles that come all the way through the space. And when they get to the back of the space, they wrap up and they become this monolithic bench form that we see having, you could have like a simple paper lamp and a few objects laid out on that, curated nicely, and it will be just a great foreground for your view out of that window. Our next slide here is material palette. Some of this is still in flux, and as I mentioned on the phone the other day, some of this is going to be contingent on availability. So as we're showing a marble type here as this big monolith, and in this material sample I'm actually showing a different version. This is a new marble type that just became available. These are actually quite large. This is a 9-inch boulder right here. So we think this could be fun and play off of the tile that we've selected for the space, which is it's called Emissary by Daw Tile, again 30 by 60 inches, and it has the look of an exposed aggregate or honed concrete floor. And these two playing off each other at different scales we think could add a lot of richness to the space. This is how we're adding warmth, which is our walnut treatment. This again could take the form of the reception desk. I think that's what our lean is right now, and this would also be what the wall is. I'll use this image as a reference. This is one of our mood board images, if you recall. But in the 1850 suite, what we're doing here is we're cladding this entire wall with a shiplap treatment of walnut, where the walnut panels are canted up into the entry. And what that does is it lets light play off those panels as they lead your eye back to the back of the space and ultimately to the view beyond. Big picture here, this again is just mood, dark palette, dark ceiling. Just want to make sure that we are all on board with this approach being a dark and moody setting. So again, we're having a dark tile. We're proposing a dark ceiling paint that's going to be a dark charcoal gray with integrated can lights. These are going to be mud-in can lights, so they're going to really be sort of an upscale version of what you typically see. There's not going to be a trim. It will look like there's just a hole in the ceiling that light is dropping out of. This is our semi-sheer drapery that we're proposing for the separation or for privacy when you would like to have it between the conference room and the rest of the space. So we've sought out a material that is Semi-transparent, you'll be able to see shadow movement. You'll certainly be able to get some of the light that's coming through those windows in the back, but you're not able to distinguish, a facial expression, for example. This is our tectum wall surface that again sits beyond the reception desk. This is also an acoustic soaker, so this helps us deaden the space acoustically. We have a lot of live surfaces, primarily our tile floor. We're softening that both with the walnut and with that tectum. And that again is just so you don't have a loud echo in the space. This is just the O from Royle is would be this metal standoff letter that we're proposing. If I go back one slide, these will be on metal standoffs casting a slight shadow. There are 3 directional can lights that will be focused on this right here, so this becomes an illuminated zone on that backdrop. Um, Black leather or dark leather for accent material, chrome and glass for other accents. This is one of the reception lights that we're suggesting. Serge Mollet is a beautiful mid-century piece that we feel works with our relatively low ceiling heights, but also creates a moment of sort of gravity at the center of the space. That would be positioned right here above this coffee table and situated between these 4 chairs. I'm going to back up one slide here. This is our demo plan. Nothing really has changed on the demo plan. Here we're showing that we are cutting out a recess. We're not removing this entire wall, but we're sort of hacking out a slot that millwork will live inside of. That millwork is going to be accessible from this side, and on the other side we'll create a bench of sorts for a slab desk to bear on top of. This is going to be the new location for our door into the back of house area. And I'll go now to our next slide. We're looking, again, this hasn't changed from last round. This is our conference room. We've grown, or we've sort of borrowed space from what we're calling Office 1. We feel it's a much needed trade-off. This office gets a little bit smaller, but the conference room really needs that extra space to feel like it's sort of a commanding space. One thing to note here, we now have doors that are on axis with each other. Previously we had a front door you would wander through. You'd sort of walk around the back of this furniture and then walk into the space. We initially liked that from the standpoint of this materiality being able to flow all the way through the space. What we're realizing now, to get good acoustic separation, a sliding glass door does not marry well. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in. And you may want to follow along with what I'm talking through here in the PDF that accompanied this email. But as I cruise down to this portion, getting this to be as seamless and sort of so the glass just kisses this wall surface, we're basically slotting in 1/2-inch monolithic glass into our walnut treatment. And to get that to work as seamlessly as possible without having a big frame that receives a sliding door, for example, we have found that the most seamless thing to do and sort of the most invisible that this glass can be is to actually relocate the door to this location, turn it into a glass pivot door with patch hardware, and let this be a fixed portion of glass. So we wanted to get your feel on that, and candidly from the original plan that we had where you'd walk back, this always felt a little bit funny that you're having to navigate around this furniture. We like that this is a sort of centralized circulation. Something else I'll mention on that front is we're showing drapery that's going to actually pocket. We're creating a pocket. We're again borrowing from Office 1 here, creating a small pocket. There's a recessed flush track that's in the ceiling, and our drapery would stack and pocket into this pocket right here. From the outside, as you're looking in, the glazing will go all the way to this point right here, and so you're going to have this interstitial zone where you have glass drapery stacked behind that glass, which for if you're cleaning the windows, for example, you would pull this drapery out and you can still get a hand back here. I think we're showing this as 8 inches wide. That's a width that is large enough to be able to finish by hand, paint by hand for the contractors, and also for cleanability. Let me zoom us back out again. So here, while I'm zoomed in, I'll just show this shiplap walnut panel that we're proposing. So these are 18 inches wide. They're canted, I think, about 11 degrees, so they're catching the light that's coming in through that window nicely. They return, and it's basically one module that gets repeated. These bear on top of a sill of sorts. So back to on that first slide, as I was describing this bench element, this is a tile, a continuation of the tile floor that wraps up onto this bench element. We're showing this capped with a black steel, and that black steel would turn the corner and would be the piece that all of these walnut panels would bear on top of. And you'll see that a little bit more clearly in the section. Let me back us back out to the full sheet. Here again we can see our walnut monolith. This is what you walk past as you walk in. This dashed line right here to this dashed line right here is a lower ceiling plane. So this is a 7-foot ceiling plane, and then you walk out into the space to 8'6". 8'6" is what our ceiling plane currently is in the space, the existing ceiling space. We're simply taking out the acoustic tiles, replacing it with a drywall hard lid. Both of these will be painted the dark gray, a very dark charcoal gray, as will the ceiling in this space here. One reception pendant will be located above this space, located right here. This is our reflected ceiling plane. Because we have relatively low ceilings in this space, we're making a bit of a spectacle of the ceiling plane. It's a subtle play, but we think it's really going to help make the space feel more luxurious. So what we're doing, we have mud-in registers. We're not using any conventional air registers, but these are slots where the drywall simply stops and there's a slot. These are supply. These two are supply as well. These are return, so the air is being drawn in at these locations. And then we have two more slots that are located here and here that are in that transition between the slightly lower ceiling that you walk in on and then when the ceiling pops up into this other space at the main reception area. Next slide here, this is our power plan. We're doing a lot to consolidate our switching. All switches are going to be located back here. There are going to be occupancy sensors that are activated by movement in the room. So for example, we have one located here. These are required by code, a second one located here. So per the settings that you establish here, when you walk in, certain lights will come on. It's all going to be programmable and dimmable. So you're able to dial in the luminosity of this light trough that's located as a backdrop to the reception desk that illuminates and washes that tectum surface. Same thing over here where we have our walnut shiplap marching down that wall. This is going to be a light trough continuous running all the way through. These will be switched so that you can dial in how much brightness you want to have, as are the rest of the lights in that space. Oh, actually, let me point out one other thing backing up here. We previously showed switches located here when our glass ran continuous and simply stopped here with the slider. And again, because of acoustic separation concerns and also just the navigability in the space, we've gone to a window that is on axis, or sorry, a door that's on axis with our entry door. Because of that, we've relocated our switches at this location on the wall here. These are our interior elevations. This is sort of standing out in the hallway before you come into the space. This is our monolith. This is the sort of back entry door that we're working to. We want to do a jamless kerf door detail. So it's not a door jamb. It's going to be, door surface flush with the adjacent wall surface painted to match. So this sort of goes away. It doesn't feel like it's part of the scene per se. Feels like it's part of the corridor space. This is our large marble monolith. We're showing a reveal at the top and the bottom. And then this is our patch hardware glass pivot door with a nice pull door signage, and then the individual pieces of half-inch monolithic glass marching across. Next image over here, this is looking at the reception desk. So we're standing sort of in the reception desk looking towards the conference area. This is the door into the conference room. This here is that interstitial sort of niche that we've created to receive the drapery. This also makes the conference room feel larger from the outside. We could have said, you know what, from here to the left is going to be drywall. We think it's a little bit nicer to allow this to feel more expansive as a glass backdrop to the reception area. So we have the one piece of glass that basically has a wall behind it that will have drapery that pockets into it. Then this glass is looking into the conference room, as are the rest of these. This is our walnut wall surface, and then it transitions at about 20 inches above the ground surface to the floor tile. So the floor tile is wrapping up at this portion here. And I'll show it, we'll look at in the next sheet, we're going to see a detail of how we're working that wall pocket. This right here is the integrated television. We're furring out the existing wall. Actually, we're furring out the relocated wall about 3.5 inches. That's going to give us a little bit more depth to have acoustic separation between this conference room and the adjacent office. Moving now to our long elevation. This is standing out in the hallway on the right hand side, coming into the sort of portico or the reception area prior to entering into the space. We feel this is going to make the office feel very generous, to have a bit of a forecourt where you come into the zone but before you've actually entered into the space. Walking through here, you can see that ceiling transition where the ceiling pops up to our 8'6" ceiling height, and then marching all the way down here we have 18-inch wide walnut panels that sit atop this very slight pop out. So again, this is going to be the floor tile. We're registering the floor joints in that tile onto the wall surface. That's going to come all the way down. This is a single electrical wall outlet. You currently have power and data marching down this wall, and in my view you have more than you need. We're eliminating the data ports because I don't think anyone's going to sit here on a laptop on that side of the room and plug an Ethernet cable into the wall. If you feel differently, let us know. Our plan is to cap that off and let it live in the wall, so we're not going to pull the stuff out, but it will be hidden away. Moving to our next slide, we have some additional elevations here. This is standing in the reception looking out towards the hallway. So here we have our monolith. This is our door that we came in through. These are the slot diffusers that are located in the face of the soffit. Moving to this next slide down here, we're looking at that backdrop. We've removed the reception desk from this scene so that we can see the millwork that we're proposing. We're showing these right now as hinged doors, but I believe what we're going to be doing is making these file cabinets across the board. That's a question actually. Do we want these to all be file cabinets that you would pull out and have hanging files, or would we like one or two of these to be cabinets that you open up and have individual shelves inside of? This again is our sort of clandestine door that takes you to the back of house area. This is our monolithic glass with our curtain track located directly inboard of that. We're showing a roll shade here that drops down in front of the glass in the conference room. This is basically extracting the full elevation. A portion of this wall disappears behind that marble monolith, and what we're doing here is removing that marble monolith so that you can see the entire backdrop. This is mainly for construction purposes. This dashed line is indicative of the light trough that we've created that these Tectum panels ascend up into. This next slide gets into the details. These are wall sections, and I'll not spend too much time on these, but here you can see the floor tile wraps up. We're creating this framed in bench element that you can literally sit on at the window. This is also for curation, putting a lamp or an object or some books, and we're showing that capped with a matte finish piece of black steel. Up here we have a pocket that we've created for our roll shade. So you have I'm proposing a 95% opaque, so slight, just a little bit of light coming through there, not total blackout, that would drop down out of that pocket. This next image here is the conference room, the wall that separates conference room and the office adjacent to it. We have a TV that sits in a recess located there. We're doing a slightly recessed toe kick at the base of our walls. This next image here is the wall that separates the reception area with the office that's directly located beyond it. This is I'm sorry, actually this is a different wall. This is we're in the reception desk and then the adjacent suite. So this is the walnut panels that we have that sit atop a slight pop out in the wall. We're showing that as a 1.5 inch pop out. So this is basically a 2x4 turned on its side. And let me just zoom us in on this one detail. We've spent some time getting this dialed in here. So here we have our floor tile, turns up onto the wall 20 inches, and then here we have a piece of black steel that caps that, and then sitting atop that black steel we have our walnut shiplap that goes all the way up and that is washed from the top with a recessed LED light that you won't see. You'll simply see light sort of pouring out of that. Here we're painting the dark charcoal color. So again, the colors of the ceiling as well as the floor it's a dark palette. It's a very dark and moody palette, going back to that image that I showed initially on the material palette board. Um, and this last one here is the wall that separates the hallway from the reception area. Again, we have that light trough detail with a tectum that goes up into it. So when you're standing in the room looking at this, you just see the tectum sort of disappearing into light. And again, that is an effort to make the room feel more expansive. This other detail I'm going to zoom into as well. This is our glass at the conference room and the recessed curtain track directly behind it. So if you're out in the reception area looking through, this is our glass. This is how we get our glass in. We're actually having a recessed top rail that the glass slips up into and then drops down. And what I'm proposing is that the glass is not received by any mullion or shoe in the bottom as is typical, but we want to use clear structural silicone so it really is as invisible and kind of sexy as possible. That glass just comes to kiss the tile surface. The tile just flows from one room into the next. That again is going to make the room feel more expansive and really feel like one room, despite the fact that you have a glass plane separating the two. This last detail that I'll go over is the wall is at the wall separating the reception from office 2. So the reception desk is located over here on the left hand side. This is a millwork cabinet that sits in the wall, and it lives primarily in office 2. In office 2, this is simply sort of a dummy cabinet that a desk slab can be lapped onto for support, but the main purpose here is that our tectum surface continues all the way down. We'll have a push latch piece of hardware that opens this up to gain access to the file cabinets within. So that is a wrap on this set of deliverables. We are ready to go forward with our bid process, which has already been initiated, and with our city submittal process. We look forward to your thoughts on this. Thank you.